he had asked me if I could ferry a twin, and it was super windy and turbulent. We aborted the takeoff. I had like a 737 coming behind me. Okay, all right, well, you want to get started? You want to do the intro or me? You're so good at it.
Hey, welcome back, guys. It is Alyssa with Cockpits and Cocktails. I am one of two of hosts, Fly Alyssa, and I'm here today with
flyGIRL Kelley.
Somebody told you that you were talking too much or something on a podcast, and I was like, well, that whole podcast, I felt like I talked like.
So I apologize if I talk too much.
No, you don't. Like, so excited to catch up. It has been so long. Sun and Fun's coming up, and I cannot wait because we have not seen each other. We have not embraced. And can you bring the astronaut to Sun and Fun?
Yeah. I moved the astronaut. He's usually right here, but I thought he doesn't look very good in the camera, so he's actually over there looking at me.
He's my best friend.
Yeah.
So how have you been? What have you been up to?
Oh man, I've been great. You know, we've been super busy. I know you've been busy. I've been busy, and I don't know why exactly. When I think of what am I doing? Why do I feel so busy?
I kind of feel like the last year was kind of put in slow motion, and we were all like kind of laid more back. And now I think things are starting to kind of get back in the groove and pick up. And, you know, this time last year we were, you know, hosting podcasts every night live on Instagram because we were bored at home. And we were like, well, we don't have anything planned. We have nothing to do. And we were so sad about it. Now it's like all of these things are popping up on our calendars again. And I'm starting to feel the weight of it. And like, can we find a happy medium here just somewhere?
I know, of course we want to do all the things. You just mentioned the stole thing in Nebraska, and I'm like, oh, I want to do that. You know, it's all these things.
FOMO. I 100% fear of missing out. I honestly, and that's half the time why I camp at Sun and Fun or Oshkosh or something, because it's not because I want to be cheap and stay in a tent. It's because I have a fear of missing out that, like, if I leave that airfield, something cool is going to happen, and I'm going to miss it. So,
well, I just don't know if anything cool could happen without you being there.
Oh, so kind. But,
so I thought, you know, we could talk a little bit about what I just did. And you and I have kind of done this before. Well, not together, but you've done it and now I've done it. And so I thought maybe people might want to know what it's all about, ferry flying. So I thought we could talk a little bit about that. And then I thought we could touch a little bit on the scholarship thing, because I'm getting ready to offer another one. You've got one, and I thought we could maybe talk about the scholarship process and any kind of like tips and things that we want to give to those that are going to be applying for scholarships. What do you think?
Absolutely. I think that's a great idea. Being in the scholarship process, it's been definitely a learning process. Being on your committee and having my own and applying at every side of it, you see something different. And I think it's valuable to those that are applying. So
yeah, I agree. All right. So I just got back from a ferry flight that was cross country in a
ferry flight, Ferry or Fairy?
Ferry.
Okay, not like the little
ferry. Not like the little ferry. Tinkerbell.
Clarifying for everybody.
So I've always heard, and I've always thought I'd be interested in ferry flying, because I think you get to fly all these different kinds of airplanes, and we know some people that have done ferry flying, and it seems like it would be really fun. By the way, do you remember it was Sarah Rovner? Is that it?
Yeah, I got stuck in the Arctic. Was that?
Yeah, that time I got stuck in the Arctic. It was like, oh yeah.
Never in a million years would I just be like, oh yeah, I was stuck in the Arctic.
I hate it when that happens. Yeah.
I hate it when that happens.
She flies airplanes everywhere. I did not go to the Arctic, but I did fly from Cincinnati to Albuquerque, New Mexico. And I've gotten to know someone that has some ferry flying opportunities, and he asked me if I'd be interested in ferrying this Cessna Turbo 210 to Phoenix. And I was like, well, yeah, but I don't know how to fly a turbo. So he's like, well, I'm gonna be in Cincinnati, so I'll teach you. And it's like, okay. So we did a flight. We spent a couple hours doing some, stuff in the pattern and going over some things in the turbo, and it really wasn't that complicated. So it's kind of a heavy plane. It's almost like a 182, but it's a 6-seater and just a little bit bigger, heavier. But it was really fun. It's really fast, and it's retractable gear, which I hadn't flown in a long time, and constant speed prop. So it was kind of like getting refreshed with all that. And of course, my biggest fear with retractable gear is forgetting to put the gear down.
Absolutely. I just saw recently that somebody had a gear up landing, and it just breaks your heart, I'm thinking about ferry flights. I did a ferry flight a year or so ago, but my thought is like, what are you comfortable in? Like, if you're not used to just jumping in every single plane, they're all different, a little bit different. Even if it's the same, if it's a Piper Archer, yeah, it's a Piper Archer, but there are different things about these planes. And how do you choose, like, if you're comfortable or not? Like, what would you say was do you just like, hey, let's fly it, see if I'm comfortable? Or
yeah, totally. And he was like, there's no timeline, and we can spend as much time in it as you feel until you're comfortable. And it really wasn't that difficult. Even in like 172s, the cockpits, they're all different. So sometimes you have round gauges, sometimes glass panels, and I think it was, kind of gone back and forth. And I think it's good to be comfortable with that, but like checklists are like everything, it just, it makes sure, with the retractable gear, I knew if I followed the checklist, there's a slim chance that I would forget, as long as you're reading it and you're doing what it says. Sometimes you can just skim over them and you just kind of like gloss over it, and you think you kind of know what you're doing, but you really have to, like, okay, make sure you're paying attention to that exact thing and doing it, calling it out.
I feel like changing aircrafts really makes you read them and not just, oh, yep. Because I know, you get into a plane, you've flown 20, 40, 80 hours, whatever. All of my training was done in a Warrior. And I just, would kind of, yep, nope, good, and you think you went over them, but did you even read them? Like, you just glanced at it. So you just go through the procedure. You just go,
right.
I'm thinking about it. So.
And I think it's good. Like, and even he was like, I want you to take someone with you. And I was definitely wanting to take someone with me just to help me make sure I'm paying attention to what I need to be looking at. And help me.
I think I was going to ask that question, is like, do you feel more comfortable flying it alone because, then you have like focus all on it by yourself? Or would you feel more comfortable with someone that can help at least manage? It doesn't have to be a pilot necessarily, but at least somebody that can help you with maybe your iPad or your checklists, or, give them tasks. I think that's a huge thing. Like, even as me not being the pilot in the plane now, I'm like, give me something to do.
Yeah.
So I know that we are the safest possible. Like, you need me to tie everything down properly, you need me to do all these things, I can do that, just so that I know, peace of mind.
Yeah, I mean, maybe because, like, if I were to fly that particular airplane again, I might feel more comfortable by myself. But in particular, like in the very end, the last leg, we actually were supposed to go to Phoenix, but we wound up not making it to Phoenix. We had some things in Albuquerque, so it was like another 2-hour flight from Albuquerque to get to Phoenix. And what I really liked about having someone with me was I didn't second guess myself so much. I mean, I heard things differently, but so did he. So if it had just been me, I might have been like, oh, I'm just hearing things, or that can't be right, you know. But we actually aborted the takeoff there from Albuquerque to head to Phoenix, and we both looked at each other at the same time while we're, you know, I'm going pushing the throttle forward, and we were both like, something's not right. And if he hadn't been with me, I don't know if I would have pushed through and thought, oh, that's probably fine, or not. So it was kind of nice, and I felt kind of, oh, what's the word when someone kind of not supports you, but I just felt like, okay, it wasn't just me.
You had that second opinion.
Yeah.
It does make me think. I just actually watched our flying club had a safety seminar, and it was talking about the accident that they like misheard the communications. Like it was like the worst accident in aviation history. It was you know, airlines that were at this smaller airport because of something, and they thought they heard something. They thought they had clearance, but they didn't have clearance. They went to take off. It was foggy, and another plane was on the runway back taxiing, and they were taking off, and they had to swerve to miss, and it was like the deadliest airplane.
Oh, I think I've seen that.
Yeah,
study on that too. Yeah.
It was a long time ago before I was in aviation, but I just it made so much sense to me being a pilot, because if you had the first officer in that plane, you know, heard it, but he didn't. He said to the captain, like, I don't think we were cleared, and he's like, we were cleared. And had he, you know, trusted that, there would have never been an accident. And so I think having that extra just ears, eyes, especially like when you fly into like Oshkosh or those things, like it's just so good to have someone to be kind of relaying those things with you.
Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with questioning and asking again, you know? You're just saying, like, could you repeat that? Or if we aren't hearing the same thing, let's
say
just
something.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
I'm kind of one of those weirdos that, like, I don't have my IFR at this point. And so I was flying up, and it was, you know, I had a passenger, not a pilot. And we were flying to Minnesota and flying up there, and we were over the top of the clouds. And I was like, okay, I can see through the clouds. I can see through. And I was kind of telling him, like, okay, if we can see through the clouds here, we'll be fine to get back. Like, we can come back around and go through here if we can't get to our position that we're going. Because there was like these layers of clouds. And like, you know, but once we got to Chicago, like it opened up at the Great Lakes there or whatever, Lake Michigan. And it was like, okay, I'm fine, you know, but like I start like talking through things and like word vomiting things so that they know what's going on, but they know what to look for too, to be able to help. And but talking in the cockpit and just like clear communication, huge.
Yeah, one of the things from our incident, I think that I sort of learned was to set that kind of tone, like the professional kind of tone in the cockpit from the get-go, so that, you know, the person knows, okay, this is serious, you know, you need to be doing this, I need to be doing this, and you know, we can have fun and relax, but
we're flying a plane.
Yeah.
We have duties, we have things to do. And we have all the fun, but we also, you know, need to really manage our cockpit and all of that. And I'm really picky when I'm flying. You know, like when I'm in the pattern or like base to final, or even within like 5 miles of the airport, I'm like, sterile cockpit unless I need something. Don't ask me unless it is valuable to what I am seeing or doing. Or if you see a plane, tell me. But, you know, don't mess with the flow of things, you know.
I know some people do not get that though. Even when I tell them from the get-go, I'm like, okay, please don't talk during like takeoff, you know, when I'm getting ready to land, and they talk, and I just ignore them. I'm like, I just ignore them.
You have to set those standards with the people that you're, you know, that's all in your pre-flight. That's all in you know, talking through your emergencies with your passengers. And especially if they're not pilots or if they are pilots, sometimes more so because they're like, we're fine,
Yeah.
But I had someone, I was going to land an airplane, and I had plane full of people and bags, and we were traveling, and one of my friends up front FaceTimed his wife as I'm landing, like, hey, how's it going? Like, look. And I'm like, ah,
Yeah.
like, who does that? Like, why are you doing that? Like, video it and send it to her. But like, I was just so like her voice and him like
Oh,
bantering.
that's so distracting. Yeah.
It's very distracting. And so like, I was like, do not do that again. Like, you cannot do that. Like, that is not. And that was my fault. And you learn from all of those.
Yeah.
I learned a lot from my ferry flight. You did your ferry flight. It's good to kind of take, I'm sure you wrote notes afterwards of things that you do differently or change or like things, For me, I did the ferry flight with my CFI. He's like, hey, do you want some extra tail wheel time? Flying from Idaho back to Springfield, it was like 10 hours in flight. We actually were booking it, man. Like we were doing like 190.
Wow.
And a Scout. Like, what? I was like, this is so fast. It was so but it was just the winds were really helping us. So we were coming back from Idaho, and things that I never thought about when you're doing a ferry flight. The guy that was getting the plane ready for us to pick up was really diligent on everything, helped me like show me how to properly fuel the plane, because every plane's a little bit different. So fueling a Scout, with bush wheels is a little different. So doing that, also like monitoring the engine and I think it's a JPI little thing. Having that really helped because you could see your like lean and like if you were hot and
yeah.
So like I'm like, man, I really want one of those in my next plane. Like a lot of planes.
When I flew had that. It's like digital and it just gives very specific information.
Very specific. And you can like every hour write those numbers down to show where you're at. And like you can, it just like performance wise, he was just telling me XYZ, like how that all worked. And it was amazing. And so it really helped me. Then we start our journey and we're flying. And we had fuel for days in the Scout. Like the Scout has ridiculous tanks. So you can go a long time, but we were flying at like 11,000 feet. And I'm like, are we going to die up here? I'm like looking at the time and like, we don't have oxygen, but he's like, well, we're going to get up here because we had to go over some mountains. And so I was like, okay, fine. But he wanted to stay up there because the winds were really awesome. Yeah. And so I had a pulse ox on and I was I'm like, I was like breathing, like, can I get it to go down? Am I okay?
Yeah.
Am I like coherent? Like it was just like so like I've been told not to do this, and it wasn't that we were like defying, like, but there's things to consider when ferrying an airplane. You don't know the aircraft as well. You don't know if it might have some issues. If you're over mountains, you want to be as high as you can over the mountains. You don't want to be 50 feet over them.
Totally.
And it was gusty going through the mountains or over the mountains. And then when we got around all of that, we were still at 11,000. And I was like, well, why don't we get down a little bit? And he's like, it's still a really crummy terrain. Mm-hmm. He's like, look at it this way. So he's like, we're in all these open spaces, like coming through like Wyoming and all of those. And there might be a lot of flat ground, but like you don't know what's flat and what's not. It could be really bouldery and rocky, but there's a town like 50 miles away that you can see, and then there's another town 50 miles away. He's like, whatever you do, you have your intended route, but unless there's mountains coming up, he's like, follow the road. If you see a road, you don't have to follow it like a snake, but he's like, follow it, just creep towards it. Because then you have a place to land. Somebody's going to be driving on it and can help you. If you just land in the middle of nowhere because you're flying 3,000 feet over terrain, then you're screwed.
You'll be in the middle of nowhere. Yeah.
You're in the middle of nowhere. Like, who's coming after you? How long is it going to take? So just things like that. I never even thought about ferrying an airplane. The pull stocks is definitely something I would always have in a ferry flight, just because you don't know, like, your flight levels you're going to be at, and well, you should plan those, but
Yeah.
just like you might have to go a little higher than what you thought, or vice versa. And I've had an issue with my plane when I had it. The muffler came apart, and like carbon monoxide and things, like, so it's just stuff like that
Yeah. I think one of the biggest things, because my uncle ferried a lot of planes, and he had said it's one of the most dangerous things you can do, because you don't know that airplane at all, and you're getting in a plane and you're trusting it, and you've got to be prepared for like everything. And I think, with this plane, so I got some of the things that I did that I've never done before was I got an oxygen tank to take with us, because I knew we would be going, there's going to be some higher terrain there. I think in Phoenix, or was it Albuquerque? I mean, Albuquerque has some.
Albuquerque's pretty high.
Yeah. So, anytime we were above 10,000 feet, we were using the oxygen, and it's not a simple kind of thing. I bought the tank and it wasn't full. I bought it from Sporty's, but it wasn't full. I had to find somewhere to get it filled up, and that was kind of hard to do. And then like I had to have it shipped back because it was left there. So now I've got to get it shipped back. So it's kind of it's not a simple just hop in the plane and go. And it took us like 3 days, because we had a weather delay for a whole day where we were stuck. The conditions are very different there. Like through the plains, it's really windy on the ground. It's so much higher winds than what I'm used to here in Cincinnati. And then the terrain is rising as you're going further and further west, and you got the density, altitude, and all that stuff to worry about. And the guy that was with me is actually a student pilot, so there's a little bit of pressure and making sure I was showing him kind of the safe, right things to do, which probably helped, in a way, because I was really thinking through
it, checking everything. Yeah. And I feel like new planes, like I'm so much more thorough and like focused on what the plane is doing, what I need to do, because I don't know where all the buttons and levers are. It's like, yes, the plane, you push the gas forward, it's probably going to take off. Like, but things can happen. So you have to be prepared for things,
Right. And the airports are so, like you mentioned, they're so much more spread out the further west you go.
I'm so thankful I trained where I did now, because, Illinois is flat and there's an airport every 30 miles at least. Yeah. And so, I mean, you just pop around, but out there, like.
No, it's definitely something you need to think about. You may not be able to fly the most direct route just because you don't want to be over the middle of nowhere.
I think our flight was like, here's the United States, and we were like, because mountain ranges are too high, or, whatever. We'd go through a valley, or then you have to watch the weather to make sure like those spots are going to be open in your route. And, we could fly like 3 hours at least before stopping. I mean, I think about 3 hours we were both ready to get out of the plane. Yeah. But so it worked out really well, but 3 hours you're just like kind of exhausted, need to move your body a little bit, but
So ferry flying, for people that don't know what it is, why don't you explain what actually ferry flying is? Yeah, you put on your little wings and you fly.
In a blooper, okay? That'll be in the next Instagram.
That is totally going on video.
Now, Natalie knows how to capture all my perfect sides. Yeah. So a ferry flight is, essentially somebody needs to get an aircraft from point A to point B, and maybe they're not even a pilot. Maybe they're selling the plane. Maybe somebody's buying the plane, or it needs to go to pre-buy, or it needs to do any of these things. It just needs to get from point A to point B. Well, people will hire a commercial pilot, And legally, you can get paid to take the airplane for this person, point A to point B. Another thing that we didn't really touch on is insurance. It depends, what insurance you have as a pilot and what insurance is on the plane and what their insurance is going to. Sometimes you have to, purchase additional insurance to ferry the plane because you need to have, X amount of hours and type or, whatever ratings. So,
be checked out actually in that airplane that you're going to be flying.
Yeah, exactly. Just to make sure that everybody's covered because you don't want something to happen and then you not be covered. But yeah, you'd just be paid to take the aircraft from point A to point B and deliver the plane. And it causes a lot of pressure. And I think that's where there's, some accidents and it's like, oh, if I'm going to give $1,000 to take this plane from Florida to California in 2 days, but I need it there by this date because there's an air show. And, I didn't know this till just recently, actually, that like all air show performers don't fly their planes to the air shows. They have a team that gets it there. And I'm like, what? Like, no, you just get to show up and look cool and do your flippy do.
Yeah.
And no, sir, you have to fly it there, but then again, I'm like, is anybody hiring? I will ferry your.
Yeah.
I mean, I will wave to everybody. Yeah.
That's a lot of pressure though, isn't it? Like
Sure.
to fly, like Patty Wagstaff's airplane out to get it to it'd be like, oh my gosh, yeah.
You know what? We can form a female pilot ferrying company. Also, we have seaplanes. We've talked about this. We're going to live in Florida, have a seaplane company. We're also going to do ferry flights and all like females and
yes,
fun.
right, yeah.
We need to grow this. So like for me on a ferry flight, like what would be some like you get flown, Joe Schmo flies you to Idaho to pick up this Scout. You get there, you're fueling it up, you're checking everything over, you're doing your pre-flight. They paid for your flight. They need the plane in 2 days. Let's say something's wrong with the plane. I mean, what is your no or what is your go or no go? Like, how much are you willing to?
I guess, like when we left at Albuquerque, there was a couple of different things that we had noticed about the plane. And because it was probably, my first long trip in this particular airplane, my tolerance or whatever for anything uncomfortable was low.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was just like, especially the mountains.
You're, hey, this is the plane you trained in 1,000 hours. You know this plane like the back of your hand, but you notice something different on it. You're like, that should probably get looked at, Yeah. I feel like some people would just kind of ignore those things, especially when it's on a deadline, it's money, it's, and I don't know
if I would take a job where I had to meet a specific deadline. I don't like that pressure, and I don't want to. Like, I would probably just say I'll do my best, but I can't promise that, Yeah. This is just how general aviation is.
And I think that's respectable, but at the same time, that there are people like that, or that people have to be somewhere on a timeline. So
yeah, I think too. Also like the turbulence and the physical demand of flying in heavy winds and you're landing and it's very physically and mentally demanding. And then turbulence, we had turbulence like the whole time. It just did not go away. I feel like the whole trip, and that's just
up. Yeah,
I don't like it, and it's exhausting to me.
Yeah, I don't like it.
I don't like it. I like smooth air, and so if you're mentally and physically, sometimes you're working a little bit harder than if it was just a smooth flight and it's kind of like, oh, I could fly for 10 hours doing this. Yeah. Well, that's different than when you're fighting the plane and turbulent and all that.
Well, and I feel like my circumstance, like I'm not commercially licensed, and so it wasn't my ferry flight, but I was able to do it with my CFI to get more experience. I think it was really great for me to do. So I highly recommend people do that just to, get that experience in the flying. It wasn't for me to get like free hours or anything but I learned a lot from it. And you just never know what little things when I write notes and things, it's just, things that you pull from it 10 months down the road that you had wrote down. It's like, oh, yeah.
True. Totally. Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I agree. Well, I'm looking forward to hopefully doing another one. You and I should do one at some point.
the best ferry team ever.
Yeah. Are you working on your commercial license right now?
Yeah, so I was working on it, and then I had some, things kind of come up. So I was like a few hours into my ground. I really wanted to finish up I wanted to go take my written before I started flying because I have the hours. I have most of, the requirements. It's just being proficient. And so I think that's just I know I can throw a couple $1,000s at it if I saved it back and did it, but I don't want to just string it out because I'm waiting on my written. So.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So part 2. Ready?
Part 2.
Let's talk about scholarships because I don't know if you noticed, but you see this very Bahama kind of shirt I've got on right now.
I do see your Bahama shirt.
Doesn't it look all islandy or something?
It looks very corally and beautiful on you.
And bright, right? Yeah. So I just did a little video for a seaplane rating scholarship that I'm getting ready to do with Sporties once again.
Yay! Can I apply for it?
Huh?
Can I apply for it?
Sure.
I feel like you don't get any choice in it. I feel like Sporties needs to pick.
Oh, you're probably right. Yeah. Yeah. They really trust my judgment, though.
Rude. They should trust your judgment enough to help a girl out.
But I know that you have had one that you've been working on, and so I thought, and it's funny because I just wrote a recommendation letter for a friend of mine that was applying for a scholarship. So we kind of got all this kind of scholarship stuff going on, and I thought we could talk a little bit about anything with the scholarships that you think might be helpful to the listeners.
Yeah, I think so in the last year or two, I've kind of helped you on the committee of scholarships or whatever you want to call my role in that. And then I raised some money for a scholarship and I'm just now getting around to giving it away. So as you can see, there's just a few things to read in my house. So, and then I applied for a scholarship and I didn't get it. Womp womp. And so now I do. Anyways, so I think there's a few things being on every side of the spectrum of scholarships that we can talk about to help others when applying for scholarships. Giving, applying, all of these things have kind of crept into my mind. First off, I'm upset that you and I can't win our scholarships because we're, so good friends.
Right.
People would definitely think it was rigged.
Yeah, totally. Can you just make up a name and put it on there, and maybe then I wouldn't really know it was you.
Fly Fred.
Yeah.
That's my alter ego. So you guys, I just go and get that Instagram one. But yeah. So let's start with I guess let's start with giving away the scholarships because you've given away a couple scholarships. I'm working on my first one. It's so hard to manage everybody's submission. And one of the submissions that I really stuck out to me, it started with, "You probably won't even get to read this." And I was like, BITCH, I'm reading it right now. I wanted to type on there, I'm reading it. But at the same time, I get it because when I'm reading 50, 100, 200 scholarships or committees, they get lost they get lost in just the monotony of reading all of these essays. So, so yeah, it's really hard to kind of like hone in and pick something. So, a few things that stand out for me in reading them are that you really like put the effort forward to work more jobs, to put your best foot forward, to be involved in anything you can in aviation just to get that extra edge. I think the most successful thing that I've ever done in aviation has been to communicate to others and, use your resources. I've never had somebody just like hand me a $2,000 scholarship and be like, here you go.
Yeah.
I've worked for things and I've gotten opportunities, but I wouldn't say that they're $2,000 scholarships. Hey, new flyGIRL glass.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's I think it's just you need to stand out. You need to put in there that you're really like working hard. Like I get the stories of like how everything's fallen apart, and those tear at my heartstrings. But like I want to know like you are so strong to like get up and like work through it, put in the effort. Like I want to help out somebody that is working so hard.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I can definitely tell. So usually, people submit their essay and then I can look at their resume. The recommendation letters, I don't really use those a whole lot to help because I just feel like they're going to ask people that are going to say good things about them, right?
Absolutely.
But I like the essay to be very personal. Like I want to know everything about, I don't want all these cliches and quotes and things that I've heard a gazillion times. And I don't want to read a letter that I feel like they're just telling me what I want to hear.
Right.
I want to hear their story and I want to hear how
being authentic and just being yourself and where you come from, what you're doing with your life, where you're going.
Yeah.
I honestly, I know this is terrible, but I've been reading essays that are like, I'm graduating high school and I'm going into college and it's going to cost me $20,000 this semester, so I need to help fund it. And I'm like, what? Like, I know there are, student loans and scholarships and, there's so many opportunities out there in that realm. So, maybe that essay is, for that, but like, I want it to be more personal. I want it to be about, your aviation journey and not so much that you need $100,000.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. I agree with that too. Because everybody wants, money to help pay for it. Who doesn't?
I would like to think that my $2,000 scholarship is going to help somebody finish their rating or start a rating or, something of that nature and not just be thrown into a bucket of debt, and maybe that's wrong of me, but that's just how I see it on my end. So I want to see the more personal side of it.
Yeah.
Even if that's the journey they're going on,
Yeah. I also like to hear, what their involvement in other aviation type things are, even if they're not, maybe pilots yet, but they've been in Young Eagles or they have hung around the airport or there's other things, because there's so many easy ways to quit, with flying because it's so hard.
You just stop.
Yeah. So I want to feel like this person's really invested in the community and in aviation, and it's not just kind of like this. Well, tomorrow it could be something totally different because they've been kind of investing in it thus far, as much as they can.
Right. Absolutely. I mean, when I didn't know about scholarships, I didn't know anybody in aviation when I started. I literally spent every waking moment at the airport. I went flying 3 times a week to get my license. I worked every hour I could to fund, my flying. And then when I couldn't fund it that week, I put it on my credit card. And then the next week I'd fund it as much as I could. And at the end of it, I had some credit card debt, but I was able to work my butt off after that and then pay it off, So it's like just knowing that like people are immersing themselves in it and really driven to finish it, and not just
if it works out in their schedule.
I honestly, I had somebody approach me, and she had said something like, she's written 10 scholarships and never gotten any scholarships, and how she just didn't think it was fair, and and my thought was, well, keep trying. I've not gotten anything given to me to get my scholarships, so like there's opportunities out there, but like it's like winning the lotto as well.
Yeah.
Like what are you doing to improve your odds of getting those scholarships? Are you posting positive things on social media to, and social media is not the be all end all to the scholarship world, but I will tell you that when I'm looking at scholarships, I'm going to look up who this is, and it says Amanda whatever. So I'm going to try to find her. That's why I actually included it, like, let me know what your Instagram or whatever is. That way, I'm not saying that you need to have a following. I'm not saying any of those things. I just want to look and know that your page is about positivity and helping other women and helping the community and being involved in aviation, and that it's not a mean person or someone that's very negative.
Yeah.
So I mean, the scholarship's all about giving back and being that light and not sucking everybody into a hole. So I think that's something I really look at. And
and we do have social media to help us build the picture of who this person is.
Right.
So, and I know like businesses and employers do.
Everybody uses it now. Like, I don't know if you saw this week, but somebody is a male pilot posted on a female pilot's page, and he was reprimanded for it lately because your employers are on there watching your, if you're applying for a scholarship, they're going to be looking you up. They're going to be like, what's this person about? Because, I can't tell on a piece of paper who you are. So I'm going to try to find out.
Yeah. Right.
And that, I think references kind of help that, but I'm not going to contact 200 references. I'm going to pick the top 5. I'm going to look at their Instagram. I'm going to look at, whatever they've got, check it out. If I can't really figure it out or put my finger on something, I'm going to give the references a call and be like, what do you got?
Yeah. I think a part of the, when you're submitting the things for the application or scholarship, part of it for me is not necessarily that I'm looking to those references to really say something to me about you. It's not going to make or break whether or not you get the scholarship. What I want to know is that you can follow directions and you can submit the things that have been asked.
If you can't provide a copy of your logbook and that's all it's asking, it's like I asked for, just can I have a picture of the last page of your logbook? So, here's the last page of somebody's logbook. Okay. Well, what I can see here is it's all training flights. Awesome. It's like they're going through the motions, and, she's got 19 hours. She's working towards, whatever. She's got 17 landings, or 72 landings. It's like I can look at this and be like, okay, that's great. She's, and she's been going every week for the last 3 months. These aren't like 1 month, it's not like January, June, November, December, and those are what it comes down to if I have to really narrow it down. I'm not looking at those specifically, but those are just kind of things that I'm looking for. And I would want somebody to look at those things of mine. Like, if my logbook's sitting here and, if you look at the last logbook entry, it was like Hawaii, so it was like, okay, so when was the last time I flew by myself? Like, January, and then I flew in February in Hawaii. It's like not very consistent, but before that it was December, November, pretty consistent, but weather permitting, whatever. But it's like within reason, but if you're trying to get through a rating, I want to know that you're
fully in, committed, making sure you're getting it done.
And I put on mine that you did not have to have any hours, you did not have to have any of that, just provided if you have. And if you haven't, explain like, oh, I'm just starting and I don't have a logbook yet, or but I also need to know like, what's your motivation, because you have to show me that you're going to put the effort forward.
Yeah. Totally. Well, sometimes you can see
like $15 or whatever you got, like, go spend it at the airport.
Yeah. I think the resumes help somewhat me kind of piece together, okay, is this person able to commit to something and stick with something for a while? You can look at like where they've worked and things like that, especially if they're not like it's the job that is not very glamorous, but they are consistently putting in the work and sticking to it, and they're committed to it. Then absolutely. I'm like, okay, that they're not switching jobs every month. So
absolutely, like I look at those kinds of things, and it's like, oh, if they've taken 2 jobs or 3 jobs, even if it's a 2-hour a week, like they're at least doing it, and it's at least trying to help fund their aviation dreams, because we all know it's not easy, it's not cheap, it's and I own a salon, I work in a salon, I have for 13 years, so I can go and work more hours and make more money, and I understand that some people can't do that. But if you get off at 5 o'clock every day, you can waitress on the weekends, you can ask for a job at the airport, sweeping floors, like, I mean, I honestly at one point contemplated mowing grass for the airport, because I could be at the airport, I could make money to fly. Why wouldn't I?
Yeah, right. Yeah. True. Anything else that you thought was important for people? Being authentic and getting personal in your essay is huge. Making sure your resume and any other documents are backing up or supporting how you can commit to something and how you're willing to put in work. All these things are kind of piecing together. I'm a stranger, I don't know you, so I have to use these things, make sure they're representative that you are a hardworking, dedicated individual.
Something that has really stuck out to me as well, I did put on my scholarship, like, hey, reach out, I put on there, like, let me know your social media. I've had people like, hey, do you know when you're, going to choose the winner for your scholarship, just like on Instagram or Facebook or whatever. And I was like, yeah, I'm working on it. It's going to come out, in April probably. And, whatever. Well, just because they reached out to me, then I follow them back, because I wasn't following them before, and I don't have to seek them out. And then I can see like, oh man, she's doing a lot of really cool things. And like, she's donating her time to Pilots and Paws, or just all of these things. And so then that just kind of prompts, like, I had a conversation with somebody the other day about her skydiving and base jumping, and I'm like, this is so cool. I just sides of aviation that I don't know, so it's just really neat to have that. So I think if you are applying for a scholarship, make sure that you're paying attention to what's going on with the scholarship and the person that's giving it, and knowing kind of what they're looking for. It's
right. Put in a little effort. Some of the scholarships or the applications, the essays, like I could tell they didn't really know what flyGIRL was, or what, just by the way they would kind of, it felt like it was just like copied and pasted and put like inserted. I really want the flyGIRL scholarship, and it's just like, I don't think this person knows anything about flyGIRL.
Yeah.
Like, maybe you should offer some products. I'm like, yeah, actually I do offer products.
That's what we are. Yeah. So it's like, know what you're applying for.
Yeah.
So
And of course, for me, like if they know anything about me, they know that I like warbirds and stuff like that. So if you can add things that are super personal to the person that's,
Right.
got the scholarship, that's going to be a big bonus.
You've got
Yeah.
you got it. Like, here's your scholarship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell us you're a Cockpitsing Cocktail subscriber.
Yeah. Do you listen to all of our podcasts? Do you know one that you really like? Like,
Yeah.
Those are things that like it's kind of common sense when you think about it, but until I had started this process and reading them and writing them, and I did a scholarship, and I get that like you want to make this long drawn out application process and pick the right person, but I'm going to tell you, I just did a scholarship and I felt like it took me 2 weeks to get through all of that stuff, and I didn't win, obviously. Not upset at all about it. But I get it. There's probably way better submissions out there, but at the same time, like, it sucks to put all of your effort out there and put all of this information and then like to repeatedly not get it, and I get that because I've been in that position. And I don't have money flying out of my pockets. Like that's not how I'm able to give away scholarships. So it's just one of those, like, I think that some scholarships, there's too many things, and I didn't want to make it that way. I wanted to be small town, more personal, and so make it more personal when you're
I agree
doing that.
All right. Well, wow, we've talked about a lot.
We talked about so much.
I know.
I mean, we don't get to see each other. I'm so excited to get to see you and like actually have real people conversations. And
I know. Yeah. I'm excited. So that's coming up, a couple weeks, right? Sun and Fun.
It's like a week and a half.
Years.
Yeah, a couple of years.
Yeah. I can't wait to get down there, and I know they've cut back, I think, on the amount of people that can come, but
they're limiting 30,000 a day, which I'm not sure how that really affects the weekdays, but I know the weekend it will limit a little bit more. So we'll see.
So I have to confess something. I rented an RV.
Nice.
We've talked about me tent camping, and it was just like 2 weeks ago, I thought, I just don't know if I can do this tent camping thing.
You're so funny. Yeah, I get the RV thing, and I get it. Like I ended up getting a hotel on like that's right at the field, so that's like perfect.
Yeah.
I think when you're exhibiting, it's a little bit different than
you're working all day
for fun. Like if you're going for fun, I don't mind camping and hanging out at my airplane and like that kind of, but when you have to look the part every day and be in a booth from 8 to 5 and be on, and I'm going to lose my voice like day one. I already know it. Like I should start screaming every night to like train my voice.
Get your voice ready. Work
I'm like,
out a little bit.
Yeah. So it's, I'm going to be so excited. I'm going to have to bring some like throat lozenges or something because, we're just not used to being around that many people all the time.
Right.
I'm excited, but I'm also like a little nervous about like having to work and be around people for every single day, all day. And then, it's going to be tiresome, and we're not used to that. We were used to that before.
I know. But you'll have a couple days to recuperate afterwards.
I might be taking a nap if you guys stop by though.
Yeah. All right. Well, it was fun as always chatting with you. We talked about the ferry flying and the scholarships, and make sure if you're listening that you're looking out for the Seaplane Rating Scholarship that I'll be doing again with Sporties. So I'm excited about that. And Alyssa, I'm sorry, but you probably will not win if you do apply.
How about we make a deal with them that whoever wins, I'll go with them and do my seaplane rating.
Yeah. That'd be fun, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I think it'd be super fun. I have 2 or 3 hours.
Yeah, you told me you had some time. It's a fun time. Okay, well, it was good seeing you, and make sure you subscribe if you have not subscribed yet. And thank you. I've got all these different beverages here that I've been drinking. I know coffee, and then there's like a vanilla cream that I got, water. But anyway, we'll see you in a couple weeks in person.
Yep, can't wait.
Yay. Thanks for listening. Cheers, Alyssa.
Have a good day.
All right. Bye.